What if I told you that the US government once secretly experimented on its own citizens, without their consent? What if ordinary people were given mind-altering drugs, hypnotized, psychologically manipulated, all in the name of national security? And what if most of the evidence was deliberately destroyed? Tonight, we're uncovering one of the darkest hidden chapters of American history, the secret CIA program known as MKUltra. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is declassified history. The birth of a secret experiment. To understand MKUltra, we need to go back to the early years of the Cold War. It's the 1950s. The United States is locked in a psychological war with the Soviet Union. After the Korean War, American POWs returned home claiming they were brainwashed. Politicians and intelligence officials panic. Was the Soviet Union developing mind control techniques? Could communists control human thoughts? In 1953, under CIA Director Allen Dulles, the agency launched a top-secret program officially called Project MKUltra. Its goal? To find ways to control the human mind. The man behind the experiments. The program was run by a chemist named Sidney Gottlieb, a quiet, stuttering scientist who believed he could unlock the secrets of the human psyche. Gottlieb wasn't just running small tests. He was overseeing more than 150 sub-projects. Universities, hospitals, prisons, even safe houses. And most of the people involved had no idea they were part of a CIA experiment. LSD, the miracle drug. One substance fascinated the CIA more than anything else: LSD. Originally synthesized by Swiss chemist Albert Hofmann in 1938, LSD became the centerpiece of MKUltra. The CIA believed LSD could break down a person's personality, force confessions, create amnesia, even reprogram behavior. In some experiments, unwitting subjects were secretly dosed with LSD and then observed through one-way mirrors. One infamous operation, known later as Operation Midnight Climax, involved CIA-run safe houses in places like San Francisco, where individuals were lured in and secretly drugged. Agents watched from behind hidden panels, taking notes, studying reactions. No consent, no warnings. The unwitting victims. Perhaps the most disturbing part of MKUltra wasn't the drug use. It was the lack of consent. College students, prisoners, mental patients, even ordinary civilians. Some volunteers were told they were testing new medications. Others were given drugs without being told at all. One tragic case involved a scientist named Frank Olson. In 1953, Olson was secretly given LSD by the CIA during a meeting. Days later, he fell or jumped from a New York hotel window. For years, his family was told it was suicide. Decades later, documents revealed the CIA's involvement. To this day, questions remain. Why haven't you heard more about this? Here's where the story gets even darker. In 1973, as the Watergate scandal shook Washington, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered most MKUltra files destroyed. Thousands of documents gone. Shredded. Burned. Erased. It wasn't until 1975, during investigations by the United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, better known as the Church Committee, that the public first learned about MKUltra. And even then, only fragments of the truth surfaced. Because the rest had already been destroyed. The bigger question: Was MKUltra a failed Cold War experiment? Or did it evolve into something more? If the CIA was willing to experiment on its own citizens in the 1950s, what else might have happened in the shadows? And how much of the full story will we ever truly know? The experiments they tried to erase. We uncovered how the CIA secretly launched MKUltra in 1953 under Allen Dulles. We talked about LSD. We talked about unwitting victims. We talked about destroyed files. But what we're about to explore now goes even deeper. Because MKUltra wasn't just about drugs. It was about breaking people. Psychological warfare on American soil. While the public feared Soviet brainwashing, the CIA began conducting its own experiments, not overseas, but inside the United States. Some MKUltra subprojects focused on sensory deprivation. Test subjects were placed in dark, silent rooms for hours, sometimes days. No light. No sound. No sense of time. Researchers wanted to know how long before the human mind starts to fracture. Other experiments combined isolation with LSD. The goal wasn't therapy. It was psychological disintegration. Could a personality be erased and rebuilt? Universities in the shadows. MKUltra didn't operate in secret bunkers alone. It operated in respected institutions. Through front organizations and fake foundations, the CIA quietly funded research at universities across the country, including projects connected to places like Harvard University. In one controversial study during the late 1950s, students were subjected to intense psychological stress under the guise of personality research. One of those students was a young man named Ted Kaczynski, later known as the Unabomber. There is no official proof he was part of MKUltra. But his participation in extreme psychological experiments during that era continues to raise questions. And that's what makes MKUltra so unsettling. The lines between documented fact and missing history are blurred. Hypnosis, torture, and psychic driving. Another disturbing area of MKUltra involved a psychiatrist named Donald Ewan Cameron. Working in Canada, Cameron conducted experiments funded secretly by the CIA. His method was called psychic driving. Patients, many suffering from mild anxiety or depression, were subjected to massive electroshock therapy, drug-induced comas lasting weeks. Repeated audio messages played thousands of times. The goal? Erase existing personality patterns and implant new ones. Instead, many patients were left permanently damaged, unable to remember basic life skills. Families had no idea the CIA was involved. And Cameron later became president of the American Psychiatric Association. The files that survived. When Richard Helms ordered MKUltra records destroyed in 1973, most evidence vanished. But not everything. In 1977, roughly 20,000 financial documents were accidentally discovered in a forgotten warehouse. Those papers revealed the scale of MKUltra. More than 150 subprojects. Millions of dollars in secret funding. Experiments conducted from the 1950s into the early 1970s. The American public was shocked. During Senate hearings, CIA officials admitted to drugging citizens without consent. But no one went to prison. No major prosecutions followed. The Cold War had ended. The program was labeled a mistake. And the country moved on. The unanswered questions. Here's the part that still unsettles many Americans today. We only know about MKUltra because of incomplete documents that survived destruction. What didn't survive? What experiments were never recorded? And if fear of communism justified mind control research in the 1950s, what justifies secret programs today? MKUltra officially ended in 1973. But the ethical questions it raised never disappeared. Apologies, lawsuits, and the legacy that still lingers. By the mid-1970s, MKUltra was no longer just a secret CIA project. It was a national scandal. After the revelations from the United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities and later hearings, Americans were forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Their own government had experimented on them, without consent, without oversight, without accountability. But what happened next? The victims fight back. As details became public, former test subjects and their families began filing lawsuits against the CIA. One of the most well-known cases involved the family of Frank Olson, the Army scientist who died after being secretly dosed with LSD in 1953. For years, the government claimed Olson's death was a suicide unrelated to CIA activity. But after investigations reopened in the 1970s, the truth surfaced: he had been given LSD without his knowledge during a CIA retreat. In 1975, President Gerald Ford personally met with the Olson family at the White House. The government issued a formal apology. A financial settlement followed. But for many, money wasn't justice. It was damage control. The Canadian lawsuits. Meanwhile, in Canada, victims of psychiatrist Donald Ewan Cameron began coming forward. They described electroshock sessions so intense they lost memories of their own children. Drug-induced comas that lasted weeks. Endless audio loops played into their unconscious minds. In the 1980s and 1990s, several survivors received financial compensation from both the Canadian government and the United States. But again, no criminal convictions. No prison sentences. Just settlements. And silence. Official reforms, or just rebranding? After the MKUltra scandal, new oversight laws were introduced. Congress strengthened intelligence monitoring. Executive orders were signed prohibiting experimentation on human subjects without consent. The CIA publicly stated that MKUltra had been terminated in 1973. But here's the part that keeps historians and skeptics asking questions. Did unethical experimentation truly end? Or did it simply evolve under new names? The CIA continues to conduct behavioral and psychological research today, officially for national security and counterterrorism. There is no evidence of a modern MKUltra-style program. But the precedent remains. And once a line has been crossed in history, it can be crossed again. Why MKUltra still matters? MKUltra isn't just a Cold War horror story. It's a case study in fear. During the height of Cold War paranoia, officials believed the ends justified the means. National security became the ultimate excuse. Civil liberties became secondary. And secrecy protected power. That tension still exists today. Security versus freedom. Fear versus ethics. Secrecy versus accountability. The files we'll never see. Remember this. Most MKUltra documents were destroyed in 1973 under CIA Director Richard Helms. What we know comes from surviving financial records and testimony. Which means the full story may never be known. And that uncertainty is what makes MKUltra one of the most haunting hidden histories in America. Final reflection. MKUltra officially lasted about 20 years. But its shadow has lasted far longer. It reminds us that even democratic governments are capable of secret abuses. And that transparency is never automatic. It must be demanded. Because history doesn't just live in textbooks. Sometimes, it lives in classified files, locked away in rooms we'll never enter. And sometimes, the truth survives by accident.